You arrive here without effort. You do not rush. You simply notice that you are breathing. The room around you feels dim and calm, wrapped in cool darkness, the kind that softens edges and loosens thoughts. Your breath moves in and out, slow and familiar, like it has been doing this job for you all along, without needing supervision. Inhale gently. Exhale gently. Nothing needs fixing. Nothing needs chasing. As your breathing steadies, the night sky seems to open above you, not suddenly, not dramatically, but the way curtains part when no one is watching. Stars do not shout for attention. They glow quietly, distant and patient, as if they have all the time in the universe. Which, conveniently, they do. You rest your awareness on that vastness, and something curious happens. The space above you no longer feels empty. It feels alive with slow presence. You begin to sense that the planets circling those distant stars are not silent stones drifting alone. They are wrapped in air. They are held. They are breathing. Not breathing like you do, of course. No lungs. No sighs of relief after a long day. And yet, each world carries an atmosphere that moves, shifts, expands, and settles. A slow planetary breath. In. Out. Held gently by gravity. You imagine it, and the idea feels strangely comforting. Atmospheres are not something you see directly. They are something you feel around a world, like warmth near a fire you cannot touch. They are signatures, soft and invisible, wrapping planets in layers of presence. Each one unique. Each one quietly telling a story without speaking a word. You inhale again, slowly, as if borrowing the rhythm of those distant worlds. And as you exhale, science enters the moment without interrupting it. Not as equations or demands, but as a calm companion pulling up a chair beside you. You learn, softly, that scientists listen to planets by listening to light. Light that has traveled for a very long time, without complaint, without getting lost, without needing directions. Light that leaves a star, glides across space, and passes through a planet's atmosphere before continuing on its way. Along that journey, it changes, just slightly. That change is the whisper. When light moves through air, it carries a memory of where it has been. Certain colors fade. Others linger. Some are nudged aside, like furniture rearranged in the dark. The light does not resist. It simply adapts. And when that light finally reaches distant instruments, it arrives holding quiet information, like a breath carrying a scent. You do not need to remember details. You do not need to label anything. Just know this: atmospheres leave fingerprints made of light. Gentle ones. Smudged ones. Perfectly imperfect ones. And by reading those fingerprints, scientists begin to sense how a planet breathes. It is a slow process. Painfully slow, if you are in a hurry. Thankfully, you are not. You smile faintly at the idea that somewhere out there, a planet is exhaling while you are inhaling, completely unaware of each other, yet connected through rhythm. The universe, it seems, enjoys symmetry. It also enjoys patience. A lot of patience. You settle deeper into that thought, letting it drift like a feather. The darkness around you feels cooler now, soothing, like night air on bare skin. The faint hum of distance settles into silence, or maybe silence settles into you. It is hard to tell. And it does not matter. What matters is this feeling of being allowed to go slowly. Planets do not rush to become understood. They orbit. They breathe. They wait. Their atmospheres rise and fall, expand and contract, shaped by warmth and light and time. Time, especially, seems to do most of the work. You find that reassuring. You have always suspected time was doing more than people give it credit for. You take another gentle breath. Inhale. Exhale. The sky feels wider now, as if responding. Or maybe you are simply more willing to notice it. There is no test at the end of this. No sudden revelation you must grasp before it slips away. You are allowed to rest in curiosity without answers. The universe does not mind. It has been unanswered before. You imagine light continuing its journey, carrying traces of alien skies, drifting calmly toward listening instruments, toward patient minds, toward moments like this one. Moments where knowing is less important than noticing. Your breathing remains steady. The stars remain where they are. Distant planets continue their quiet inhaling and exhaling, wrapped in invisible arms of air. You are here, safe, present, and unhurried. As your breath settles into an even slower rhythm, you feel yourself drifting closer, not through space, but through understanding. Not deeper, but softer. The light is already moving ahead of you, learning how to listen, and you begin to follow, without needing to arrive just yet. You continue without effort, carried forward by the calm you have already found. Your breath is steady now. It knows the way. The darkness around you feels softer than before, as if it has warmed slightly in your presence. Somewhere beyond the ceiling, beyond the clouds, beyond the idea of distance itself, light is moving. Not rushing. Never rushing. Just moving, because that is what light does when left alone. You imagine it drifting outward from a star, not sharp or blinding, but mellowed by time. This light has been traveling longer than any thought you had today, longer than most worries remember how to exist. It glides through space with a quiet confidence, like it trusts the journey to unfold without interference. As you inhale, slowly, you picture that light approaching a distant planet. The planet does not announce itself. It simply waits, wrapped in its atmosphere, breathing in its own slow rhythm. When the light arrives, it does not crash or collide. It passes through, gently, the way air moves through hanging chimes on a still night. The chimes do not resist. They respond. As light moves through a planetary atmosphere, it listens. Not with ears, of course, but with openness. It allows the air to touch it, to shift it, to take tiny pieces of it away and give tiny pieces back. The light does not complain. It adjusts. You find that admirable. You consider trying it later. Some parts of the light are softened. Some are nudged aside. Others slip through unchanged, carrying on as if nothing happened. But something always happens. A quiet exchange. A breath shared between light and air. You exhale slowly, imagining that exchange completing itself. This is how listening happens in the universe. Not by demanding answers, but by allowing change. Scientists understand this, even if they do not always say it out loud. They build instruments designed not to shout questions into space, but to sit patiently and receive what arrives. You smile faintly at the idea of listening machines, floating calmly, doing nothing in particular for very long stretches of time. It sounds almost luxurious. Certainly more restful than most meetings. Light continues its journey after passing through the atmosphere, now carrying subtle memories of that encounter. It holds patterns shaped by the air it touched, like a traveler returning with the faint scent of another place on their clothes. You do not see the scent. You sense it. When that light finally reaches distant observers, those patterns are noticed. Not rushed. Not overinterpreted. Simply noticed. The way you notice your breath when you remember to, halfway through the day, surprised that it has been there all along. You rest with that idea. Light is a listener. Light is a witness. Light is something that does not interrupt, but records. The glow behind your closed eyelids feels warmer now, as if responding to the thought. Or perhaps you are just more relaxed. Either explanation works. The universe is flexible like that. You inhale again. Light inhales too. In this shared rhythm, the science remains gentle. No numbers appear. No scales demand comparison. Instead, there is only the concept of change and the patience required to notice it. A planet breathes. Light listens. Information drifts onward. You find comfort in how indirect it all is. No planet is touched. No atmosphere is disturbed. Everything remains where it belongs. Knowledge arrives without intrusion. That feels important, even if you cannot quite say why. Somewhere in the distance, instruments quietly receive the light and begin their own careful listening. They are tuned to subtle differences, to missing pieces, to soften edges. They do not expect perfection. They are accustomed to whispers. You imagine yourself becoming quieter too, your thoughts spacing themselves farther apart, like stars thinning out as you drift away from the galactic center. The mental noise fades. What remains feels spacious and kind. Light keeps moving. It always does. Carrying what it has felt. Carrying what it has learned without judgment. You admire its neutrality. Light never decides what matters. It simply delivers. You exhale, slow and complete, as if letting the light pass onward. There is a small, almost playful comfort in knowing that the universe communicates this way. Not with declarations, but with traces. Not with clarity, but with texture. It means misunderstanding is allowed. It means learning can take time. A great deal of time. Your breath remains calm. The warmth behind your eyelids lingers. The idea of light as a listener settles into you, becoming familiar, becoming safe. As the light drifts farther inward, carrying the soft fingerprints of alien air, you feel yourself following it, unhurried, curious, ready to notice what those atmospheres are made of, layer by gentle layer, as the journey continues. You drift onward without moving. Your breath remains slow. It keeps you company. The light you followed arrives gently now, no longer just a traveler, but a quiet messenger. It carries subtle changes, faint impressions shaped by the atmospheres it has passed through. You sense that these atmospheres are not single, simple things. They are layered. They are arranged like soft blankets, stacked one upon another, each resting patiently in place. You inhale and imagine those layers settling. Every planet wraps itself in air differently. Some hold their atmospheres close, tight, and careful. Others let them stretch outward, thinning gradually into space. There is no correct way. There is only the way that works for that world, in that moment, under that light. Within those layers, gases drift. They do not hurry. They mingle, separate, rise, and sink with slow intention. You are not asked to remember their names, but a few feel familiar, like scents you recognize without trying. A hint of water. A trace of carbon. A whisper of methane. They pass through your awareness gently, without demanding attention. You exhale and let them pass. Each gas shapes how a planet breathes. Some hold warmth. Some let it go. Some scatter light softly, while others absorb it like velvet curtains drawn halfway closed. Together, they create a signature, a kind of atmospheric accent, subtle but distinct. No two worlds speak exactly the same way through their air. You find comfort in that uniqueness. It reminds you that difference does not require explanation. It simply exists. The science stays calm as it unfolds. Gases interact with light by greeting certain colors and letting others pass by unnoticed. It is not personal. It is not dramatic. It is simply how they behave, the same way you naturally breathe without narrating each step. Light notices these interactions. It records them quietly. When it leaves the atmosphere, it carries those impressions along, like a memory you did not realize you were forming until it is already there. You rest with that thought. Memories forming without effort. As you inhale again, you imagine the layers of air around a distant planet responding. The uppermost regions thin and cool. Lower layers remain dense and steady. Deeper still, pressure builds gently, not as force, but as presence. Everything finds its level in time. There is no rush for balance. Balance arrives eventually. You smile faintly at the idea that planets, like people, take time to settle into themselves. Some days are clearer. Some days are hazier. The atmosphere adjusts. The breath continues. Patterns begin to reveal themselves across worlds. Certain combinations of gases appear again and again, like familiar chords in a slow song. Not because the universe lacks imagination, but because some arrangements simply work well. They hold warmth. They protect surfaces. They endure. You find that reassuring. Familiarity does not mean repetition without meaning. It means stability. It means the universe knows how to keep things going. Your breath mirrors that steadiness. In. Out. Nothing extra. You imagine scientists noticing these patterns, not with excitement, but with patience. They do not leap to conclusions. They sit with the data, letting it breathe, letting it reveal itself slowly. Listening, again, proves more useful than speaking. The darkness around you feels deeper now, but not heavier. It is the kind of darkness that feels full rather than empty. Somewhere within it, countless atmospheres continue their quiet motion, gases drifting, layers shifting, breaths unfolding across unimaginable distances. You exhale, and imagine those breaths overlapping, a cosmic tide of inhaling and releasing, none of it synchronized, all of it connected. There is something deeply calming about knowing that complexity does not require chaos. Layers can exist without conflict. Gases can share space without argument. Light can pass through without needing permission. You let your shoulders soften, even if you did not realize they were tense. Each breath leaves a trace. On you. On the world. On the light that passes through. Most traces fade. Some linger just long enough to be noticed by someone patient enough to look. You rest in that patience now. As your breathing slows further, you sense a subtle shift. Some atmospheric traces hint at warmth held close, warmth managed gently, warmth that does not rush away into space. The idea floats nearby, unannounced, waiting. You do not follow it yet. You simply breathe. You remain where you are, still drifting, still breathing. Nothing has changed. And everything has softened. The idea of warmth arrives slowly, the way a blanket settles over you at night. Not thrown. Not forced. Just placed, with care, until it rests exactly where it should. You notice how your body responds to warmth without instruction. Muscles loosen. Thoughts slow. Breathing deepens on its own. You imagine distant planets responding the same way. Around each world, an atmosphere does more than exist. It holds. It keeps. It remembers warmth that would otherwise drift away into the cold quiet of space. This holding is not aggressive. It does not trap or squeeze. It simply lingers, allowing a planet to remain itself a little longer. You inhale gently, as if gathering warmth. You exhale, as if letting it spread. Science steps closer here, still quiet, still respectful. It explains that some gases are especially good at holding warmth, the way thick curtains hold heat inside a room at night. Light arrives from a star, touches the surface, rises again, and meets the atmosphere waiting above. Some of that warmth continues outward. Some is welcomed back, returned gently toward the planet below. This exchange repeats. Over and over. A steady rhythm. A planetary breath. You find comfort in how ordinary it feels. No drama. No extremes. Just balance, adjusting itself over time. Too little warmth, and a world grows still and frozen. Too much, and the rhythm strains. But when the balance settles, the breath continues easily. You smile softly at the thought that even planets must learn moderation. Your own body knows this language well. You shift slightly, seeking the most comfortable position, without thinking about it. You trust warmth to guide you. Planets do the same, in their own slow way, shaped by light, air, and patience. As you breathe, you imagine atmospheres thickening and thinning, adjusting themselves like careful caretakers. They respond to changes gradually, never panicking, never overcorrecting all at once. Time does most of the work. Time, again, proves itself reliable. Earth drifts into your awareness, not as something special, but as something familiar. A world you know by feel rather than by data. Its atmosphere holds warmth gently, allowing oceans to remain liquid, air to remain soft, nights to remain survivable. It breathes steadily, imperfectly, but well enough. You feel a small wave of gratitude, quiet and unspoken. Other planets breathe differently. Some hold their warmth close, wrapped tightly in thick air. Others struggle to keep it, letting it slip away into darkness. There is no judgment in this. Only variation. Only circumstance. You inhale, imagining warmth collecting. You exhale, imagining it staying just a moment longer. The science remains conceptual, almost intuitive. Warmth comes in. Warmth goes out. Atmospheres decide, gently, how much to keep. Nothing is exact. Everything is adaptive. You are not asked to measure, only to notice. The darkness around you feels cozier now, less cool than before. Perhaps your body has warmed slightly. Perhaps your thoughts have. The distinction feels unimportant. Warmth, after all, spreads quietly. You picture distant surfaces bathed in faint starlight, warm just enough to matter. You picture air above them catching that warmth, holding it like cupped hands. You picture night falling on those worlds, temperatures easing downward, but not collapsing entirely. Breathing continues. There is reassurance here. Warmth is not accidental. It is shaped, guided, maintained through countless small interactions, none of them urgent, all of them necessary. You find yourself trusting this process, even beyond planets. Trusting that balance can emerge without force. Trusting that not everything requires constant attention to remain stable. You exhale slowly, as if releasing stored heat from your own body. The universe feels less cold when you understand it this way. Still vast. Still quiet. But not hostile. Just careful. Just patient. You rest with that feeling, letting it settle fully. As your breathing remains slow and even, you notice a gentle implication forming nearby. Warmth affects more than temperature. It shapes movement. It invites lifting and drifting. Where warmth rises, something else follows. You sense softness gathering above warm worlds. Something pale. Something slow. You remain calm as the idea approaches. You breathe. You remain suspended in calm, carried forward by warmth that lingers. Your breathing stays slow. It feels natural now. From that held warmth, something begins to rise. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just enough to matter. You picture air lifting, cooling, gathering itself into something softer. Clouds arrive this way, without announcement, forming quietly above distant worlds. They do not rush into shape. They drift. They blur. They soften edges that were never meant to be sharp. You inhale gently, imagining moisture gathering. You exhale, imagining it spreading wide. Clouds are pauses in a planet's breath. They slow things down. Light that reaches them is not rejected, only scattered, diffused into gentler paths. Brightness becomes glow. Heat becomes comfort. Nothing is wasted. Everything is redistributed. Science remains calm as it explains this. Clouds reflect some light back towards space, easing the warmth below. Others hold warmth in, keeping nights from growing too cold. Many do both at once, because clouds enjoy complexity and refuse to choose sides. You appreciate that about them. Each world makes its own clouds. Some are thick and bright, stretching wide like endless sheets. Others are thin and patchy, drifting lazily across unfamiliar skies. Some hover high, cold and distant. Others settle low, close to surfaces that never feel the same light twice. You imagine standing beneath one of these skies, looking up, unable to see very far. And instead of frustration, you feel comfort. Clouds protect by obscuring. They remind you that clarity is not always kindness. You breathe slowly, as if moving through fog. Light passes through clouds differently than through clear air. It scatters, bends, softens. The light that emerges carries a gentler message, less precise but more forgiving. Scientists notice this, too. They learn to listen through the blur, understanding that clouds complicate signals without erasing them. Complex does not mean impossible. It just means slower. You rest in that idea. Clouds also move. They drift with winds, respond to warmth, dissolve and reform without ceremony. A planet's atmosphere breathes, and clouds ride that breath, marking its rhythm like pauses between thoughts. You smile faintly at the idea that even planets need moments where nothing is perfectly clear. Your own mind mirrors this now. Thoughts appear, soften, and drift away before fully forming. You do not chase them. You let them pass, cloud-like, doing their quiet work. The science stays conceptual. Clouds are made of tiny particles suspended gently in air. Ice, liquid, dust. Each one small. Together, they change everything. They prove that softness can have enormous influence. You inhale again. You exhale again. Clouds make planets harder to read, and that is not a failure. It is simply part of listening honestly. Scientists learn patience here. They wait for gaps. They study patterns. They accept uncertainty without rushing to erase it. You find that deeply reassuring. The darkness around you feels muffled now, like sound softened by mist. The universe has not gone quiet. It has gone gentle. Somewhere, clouds continue drifting across alien skies, reflecting faint starlight, holding warmth, releasing it slowly. They are not obstacles. They are guardians. You feel yourself sinking deeper into comfort, wrapped in layers of calm, much like those clouds wrap their worlds. The breath of the planet slows. Your breath follows. In this softened state, you begin to sense movement beneath the clouds. Subtle shifts. Circulation. Air flowing around warmth and shadow, guided by differences that never stay still for long. You do not follow yet. You simply rest. Behind clouds, something stirs. You do not wake. You do not drift away. You remain balanced between. Behind the clouds you imagined, something continues to move. It is not hidden so much as softened, like activity behind a curtain. The planet keeps breathing, and that breath does not stay still. It circulates. It wanders. It finds paths, then slowly reshapes them. You inhale, feeling air move within you. You exhale, feeling it leave. Weather begins this way. Not as events, but as motion responding to difference. Where warmth gathers, air rises. Where coolness settles, air drifts inward. The movement is not dramatic. It is practical. The planet is simply redistributing its breath. You sense this motion as mood rather than action. Some days feel restless. Others feel calm. Some carry long, steady winds. Others hold stillness that lasts. None of it is personal. None of it is punishment. It is expression. Science approaches carefully, using language that avoids sharp edges. Winds are described as flows. Circulation as loops. Heat traveling slowly from where it arrives to where it is needed. Everything moves with purpose, even when that purpose takes time to become clear. You find relief in that. Purpose without urgency. You imagine standing on a distant world, beneath its layered sky, feeling a breeze that has traveled far. It has passed over warmth and shadow, gathered information without knowing it, and arrived at you carrying a planet story. Not a headline. A mood. Some winds move in great arcs around worlds, guided by rotation and light. Others stay close to surfaces, gentle and persistent. Some rise and fall like breath made visible. You do not need to track them. You only need to feel their steadiness. You breathe again, matching their pace. Storms exist here too, but even storms are reframed. They are moments when motion gathers itself more tightly, when energy moves with focus rather than diffusion. They are not chaos. They are concentration. Afterward, balance resumes. You smile faintly, comforted by the idea that intensity is temporary by nature. The science remains conceptual, almost intuitive. Differences create motion. Motion spreads warmth. Motion reshapes clouds. Clouds soften light. The cycle continues, looping gently, rarely repeating itself exactly, never stopping entirely. A planet that breathes must move. You notice how similar this feels to your own inner weather. Thoughts rise when warmed by attention. They drift away when cooled by rest. Some linger. Some pass quickly. You no longer judge this movement. You simply allow it. Your shoulders feel heavy now, pleasantly so. Gravity seems kind. The distant hum of imagined winds blends with your breathing until they feel indistinguishable. Inside. Outside. It hardly matters. Scientists observe planetary weather patiently, aware that snapshots miss the truth. They watch over time, letting patterns reveal themselves. They resist the urge to label too quickly. They understand that moods take time to show their character. You appreciate that restraint. On some worlds, weather smooths extremes, carrying warmth toward darkness, easing sharp contrasts. On others, motion struggles against imbalance, working constantly without quite settling. Neither is wrong. Both are honest responses to circumstance. You inhale slowly. You exhale slowly. The idea that motion does not equal danger settles into you. Movement can be soothing. Circulation can be stabilizing. Change can be the very thing that allows rest to exist at all. The darkness around you feels alive with this understanding. Not busy. Just gently active. Somewhere, winds trace invisible paths around alien horizons, lifting clouds, lowering them, shaping skies that no one sees directly. And still, those skies are known. You feel deeply reassured by that. Known without being disturbed. Understood without being touched. Weather, you realize, is simply a planet expressing itself over time. A conversation between light and air, moderated by patience. You listen without needing to respond. Your breathing grows even slower now, long and smooth, like a steady current that has found its course. Thoughts thin out. Sensations soften. Everything feels evenly distributed. As motion continues beneath clouds, as winds trace their calm paths, a new curiosity forms quietly. Some patterns of movement feel especially gentle, especially stable. They seem able to last. You do not reach for the idea. You let it approach. Some breaths, it seems, can continue for a very long time. You do not feel rushed toward this idea. It meets you gently, like a thought that sits beside you instead of interrupting. After sensing motion, balance, and mood, a softer question begins to form. Not spoken aloud. Not written anywhere official. It is simply felt. Could this breathing continue? Could this rhythm last? Habitability does not arrive as a checklist here. It arrives as a feeling of ease. A sense that a planet is not straining against itself. That its atmosphere holds together without effort. That warmth comes and goes without extremes. That weather moves without tearing the breath apart. You inhale, noticing how your breath enters without resistance. You exhale, noticing how it leaves just as easily. Science mirrors this gentleness. It does not ask whether life must exist. It only wonders whether conditions feel steady enough to allow possibility. Whether a planet can keep breathing for long stretches of time without losing its balance. You imagine a world where days pass quietly, where light arrives consistently, where air remains present, not escaping, not collapsing inward. Nothing dramatic happens. And that is exactly the point. Stability, you realize, is deeply underrated. A habitable world is not perfect. It does not promise comfort at every moment. It simply avoids constant strain. It allows systems to recover. It gives itself time. Much like you do when you finally lie down and stop trying to solve anything. You breathe slowly, resting in that comparison. Some planets hold warmth just enough. Some circulate air smoothly from light to shadow. Some maintain clouds that soften extremes rather than amplify them. None of this guarantees life. It only suggests that the breath of the planet does not falter easily. You find peace in that restraint. No declarations. No conclusions. Only careful noticing. Scientists approach this question with humility. They know how easily hope can outrun evidence. So they slow themselves down. They look for long-term patterns. They ask whether conditions could remain gentle over time, not whether they appear exciting in a single moment. You appreciate that patience. It feels aligned with your own slowing thoughts. Habitability becomes less about thresholds and more about rhythm. Can a planet inhale and exhale without interruption? Can it absorb change without breaking its pace? Can it adapt slowly instead of reacting sharply? You sense how rare that balance might be, and how quietly precious. Your breathing remains calm. Your body feels supported. Gravity holds you without effort. The analogy feels complete without being explained further. Uncertainty lives comfortably here. There is no pressure to decide. A planet does not need to be declared anything. It can simply be observed, listened to, respected from afar. You smile faintly at the idea that not knowing is sometimes the most honest position. The universe does not hurry these answers. It lets worlds reveal themselves gradually, through countless breaths, through subtle patterns that only appear when watched gently for a long time. You inhale again. You exhale again. Some possibilities feel close. Others feel distant. All are allowed to exist without resolution. That openness feels soothing, like leaving a question unanswered because it does not need an answer yet. Habitability, you realize, is not a destination. It is a process. A continuous adjustment between light, air, warmth, and time. When it works quietly. You rest inside that quiet. As your breathing slows further, a faint echo appears. Some atmospheric patterns feel oddly familiar. Not because they promise anything, but because they resemble rhythms you already know. You do not analyze the feeling. You simply notice it. Some breaths, it seems, carry echoes. You do not lean forward when the echoes appear. You stay where you are. Listening does not require movement. The feeling of familiarity arrives softly, almost shyly, like a memory you cannot quite place. It does not announce itself as important. It simply feels known. Somewhere among the countless breaths of distant worlds, certain patterns resemble rhythms you already understand. You inhale gently, as if acknowledging recognition. You exhale, letting it remain unfinished. These echoes are not messages. They are not signals waving for attention. They are subtle alignments, moments when a planet's atmosphere behaves in ways that feel quietly familiar. A combination of gases. A balance of warmth. A steadiness that reminds you of home without copying it. Science approaches this moment with deep caution. These echoes are never treated as answers. They are treated as questions asked politely, without expectation of reply. Researchers listen carefully, aware that familiarity can be comforting but also misleading. You appreciate that honesty. An echo does not mean repetition. It means resemblance. Two songs can share a rhythm without being the same song. Two worlds can share atmospheric patterns without sharing stories. Understanding this feels important, even as you allow yourself to rest. You breathe slowly, letting that distinction settle. The idea of biosignatures drifts into awareness, not as a declaration of life, but as a category of echoes worth listening to. Certain gases tend to appear together when a planet's atmosphere remains active, replenished, and dynamic. Not proven. Not promised. Simply suggestive. You find comfort in how careful the language remains. Suggestive. Possible. Worth watching. Light carries these patterns across space with its usual patience. It does not exaggerate. It does not simplify. It arrives with all its quiet complexity intact. Instruments receive it, and scientists listen, knowing that one moment never tells the whole story. You imagine them pausing often, waiting, comparing breaths across time rather than reacting to a single exhale. It feels respectful. It feels aligned with the way you are listening now. You inhale again. You exhale again. Recognition does not create urgency here. It creates stillness. When something feels familiar, you do not grab it. You let it sit beside you, allowing space for doubt and curiosity to coexist. Some echoes fade with time. Others persist. Patterns repeat, not exactly, but enough to be noticed again and again. It is in this repetition that interest grows, slowly, without excitement overpowering restraint. You find that rhythm soothing. It mirrors your own breathing, steady and unforced. The darkness around you feels attentive now, as if the universe itself is listening alongside you. No spotlight. No emphasis. Just awareness held gently. Scientists know how easy it is to want these echoes to mean something more. So they practice patience. They design checks. They invite skepticism. They remind themselves that the universe is skilled at producing coincidence without intention. You smile softly at that thought. The universe, it seems, enjoys keeping its secrets subtle. Your body feels warm and still. Muscles rest. Thoughts float by without catching. The idea of listening without expectation feels increasingly natural. Some echoes feel closer than others. Some feel distant, almost imagined. All are treated with equal care. No echo is elevated above the process itself. You inhale slowly, as if recognizing a familiar scent carried by a passing breeze. You exhale slowly, letting it drift on. In this way, listening becomes an art rather than a hunt. It values restraint over certainty. It understands that silence can be informative too. You feel deeply reassured by that. Nothing is being forced. Nothing is being rushed. The universe is allowed to reveal itself at its own pace. As you rest here, surrounded by gentle recognition without conclusion, another realization settles quietly. To listen this carefully, tools must learn patience as well. Not just minds, but instruments. You sense the presence of distant observers, floating, waiting, breathing light in and out. You do not follow them yet. You remain still. The listening continues. You remain still as the listeners take shape. Not rushing toward them. Not pulling them closer. They are already there. Far above familiar ground, beyond air and weather and cloud, telescopes float in silence. They do not hum loudly. They do not announce themselves. They simply exist, suspended in darkness, held by motion so smooth it feels like rest. You inhale slowly, imagining their quiet presence. You exhale, imagining light arriving. These telescopes are not hunters. They are not seekers in a hurry. They are observers, designed to wait without growing impatient. They open themselves to incoming light the way you open your lungs to air, trusting that something meaningful will arrive if given enough time. Light reaches them gently. It drifts in, carrying the faint impressions of distant atmospheres, of clouds, of warmth, of motion. The telescopes receive it without judgment. They do not demand clarity. They accept softness. They are built for whispers. You find comfort in that. Science often feels loud from the outside, full of announcements and conclusions. But here, at its core, it is quiet. It is waiting. It is listening longer than feels reasonable, longer than most things are willing to wait. You imagine these instruments floating through long nights and longer days, never growing bored, never checking the time. Stars move. Planets pass. Light keeps arriving. The telescopes breathe it in, slowly, steadily. You match that rhythm. In. Out. They are tuned to change so subtle it would escape impatience. Tiny shifts in light. Slight absences. Gentle patterns that only reveal themselves after many breaths, many passes, many returns. Nothing dramatic happens quickly. That is the point. You feel your thoughts slow further, as if learning from their example. These telescopes are extensions of human curiosity, but not its restlessness. They reflect a quieter part of you, the part that wants to understand without disturbing, to know without owning. They are proof that curiosity can be gentle. You imagine the care taken to place them where they are. Calculations done long ago. Paths planned. Also, they could arrive at a place of near stillness. A place where listening is easier. You smile faintly at the irony. So much effort, just to be quiet. Light continues its journey, passing from atmosphere to space to instrument, carrying layered stories that take time to unfold. The telescopes do not rush to interpret. They collect. They store. They wait for context. You breathe, feeling how natural that waiting feels now. Some telescopes look invisible light. Others listen to warmth. Others notice what is missing rather than what is present. Together, they create a fuller sense of distant worlds, like different senses working together without competition. You appreciate that cooperation. None of these instruments work alone. They share observations. They confirm each other gently. They double-check. They hesitate. They revise. Science here feels less like a declaration and more like a conversation held over long periods of silence. You feel deeply reassured by that pace. The darkness around you feels vast but friendly, like a large room where no one expects you to speak. Somewhere in that darkness, telescopes continue their slow breathing, opening and closing, receiving and releasing, never forcing meaning to arrive before it is ready. You inhale again. You exhale again. There is something soothing about knowing that knowledge does not always arrive with certainty. Sometimes it arrives as improved listening. Sometimes the success is simply noticing more clearly than before. You imagine the light being transformed into patterns, then into images, then into understanding that remains provisional, open to revision. Nothing here is carved into stone. Everything is allowed to change as more breaths are taken. That flexibility feels kind. Your body feels heavy now, pleasantly anchored. Your mind feels wide, unoccupied by urgency. The idea of telescopes breathing with you settles into a shared rhythm, one that does not require attention to maintain. You sense how far this listening extends. Across years. Across missions. across generations of observers who trust those who come after them to continue waiting. You find comfort in that continuity. The universe does not mind being watched slowly. It reveals itself layer by layer, breath by breath, to those willing to stay quiet long enough. Telescopes make that quiet possible. They hold the silence open. You rest inside that held space. As the telescopes continue floating, receiving light without strain, you notice something subtle shifting within you. After so much outward listening, your awareness begins to turn gently inward again. Not away from the universe. Back into your place within it. You remain calm as this happens. The breath stays slow. The rhythm remains steady. The listening does not end. It simply changes direction. You feel yourself settling, ready to carry what has been noticed into rest, into reflection, into something softer still. The telescopes continue breathing light. You continue breathing air. And somewhere between the two, understanding remains open, waiting, unhurried, as you drift inward once more. You do not rise. You do not rush. You simply notice that you are still here. The rhythm you have followed for so long, the light that listens, the gases that drift, the clouds that soften, the winds that move like moods, has carried you gently to this moment. And now, your own breath feels inseparable from it. Inhale. Exhale. Steady. Continuous. As natural as the orbit of a distant world. You imagine a planet far away, exhaling in its slow way, while your lungs fill. You imagine its atmosphere stretching, holding warmth, scattering light, riding invisible currents. And you realize something quietly extraordinary. You are breathing with it, not through effort, not through coincidence, but because the universe is designed for connection. Your body feels heavier, pleasantly grounded, but your awareness remains expansive. Every inhale gathers calm. Every exhale releases tension. Your ribcage rises and falls, and you notice how close that movement feels to the distant planet's invisible breathing. You feel part of a rhythm that stretches across light years, yet feels intimate, immediate. Science rests gently beside this feeling. It does not demand. It does not hurry. It quietly explains, softly, that atmospheres shift, that gases rise and sink, that light carries memories of distant worlds, that warmth is held and released, that clouds blur and protect. None of this arrives with urgency. It simply exists, like your own awareness in this moment. You inhale slowly, imagining all the planetary breaths converging with yours. You exhale, imagining warmth and air and light spreading outward, connecting through silence. You are present. You are patient. You are attentive. The telescopes still float, receiving light without effort, instruments of careful curiosity. They whisper data, patterns, possibilities, not as answers but as invitations. You match their patience. You match their rhythm. You notice every subtle nuance, the softness of the air against your skin, the faint hum in imagined space, the glow behind your eyelids that shifts with your focus. Breath by breath, you notice the recurring signature of life itself: rhythm, balance, movement, pause, and release. Not the presence of life in a distant atmosphere, but the concept of living rhythm itself. It mirrors your own experience, the quiet oscillation of thought, heart, and breath. You are connected not only to distant worlds but to your own inner cosmos. You feel gratitude, soft and unspoken. Gratitude for light that carries whispers. Gratitude for air that holds warmth. Gratitude for clouds that move without haste. Gratitude for telescopes that listen. Gratitude for yourself, breathing in alignment with something vast, patient, and unseen. The boundaries between here and there, near and far, inside and outside, blur slowly, imperceptibly. You do not reach for this insight, it finds you gently, like a feather carried on a subtle current. The dark stretches around you feel protective. The quiet fills the spaces between your thoughts. You feel safe. You feel steady. You feel part of something larger that does not demand more than presence. Science continues to rest beside wonder. No questions are urgent. No conclusions are pressed. The universe simply allows you to notice that planets breathe, that light listens, that warmth is held, that movement is meaningful, that echoes appear, that telescopes can pause, that possibility exists without promise. And that you, breathing now, are not separate from these motions. You are part of the same flow. Your inhale draws an understanding without requiring comprehension. Your exhale releases all tension, all effort, all desire to solve or fix. Nothing more is required. You notice the soft glow of awareness behind your eyelids, the comforting pressure of the surface beneath you, the warmth in your chest, and the effortless rise and fall of your lungs. Each inhale becomes a mirror of the planetary breaths you have imagined. Each exhale becomes a return to yourself, calm, unhurried, and wholly present. Across the universe, light continues its journey. Across countless worlds, atmospheres continue their quiet rhythm. Clouds rise and fall. Winds drift in loops. Patterns repeat, but never exactly the same. Each movement is its own signature, yet all follow the gentle pulse that unites them. And you follow it too. You inhale with the universe. You exhale with the universe. Your rhythm is acknowledged, not measured. Your presence is counted, not weighed. You are a part of the breathing cosmos, a note in a symphony of patience and continuity. A sense of peace grows, spreading slowly, like warmth through a room you have just entered. You let it fill every corner of your awareness. You notice the lingering faint echoes from earlier breaths, the subtle fingerprints of distant atmospheres, the calm patience of telescopes, the soft hum of imagined winds, and the warmth held in invisible arms. All of it converges, and all of it is gentle. You inhale once more, long and complete. You exhale, releasing into the vast calm. The universe breathes. You are breathing with it. There is no need for final answers. There is no need for certainty. There is only the rhythm of inhalation and exhalation, the quiet persistence of life and observation, the shared pulse that stretches across stars and inside you. And as your awareness drifts, the boundary between worlds, between self, between light and air, dissolves softly. A gentle current carries you onward, toward rest, toward continuation, toward the next exhale, the next inhale, the next quiet rhythm, holding everything in patient, effortless, invisible arms.